War always happens on somebody's doorstep. These are the words of Emir Cerimovic, a survivor of the siege war of Sarajevo. It's his story and the stories of many other war survivors that inspired the game This War of Mine, brought to us by 11-Bit Studios.
I saw soldiers from my balcony. You woke up and you had nothing left. There were mortar shells and bombs falling on the streets, killing and looting. I know one thing. It might happen to anyone.
Day 1, and you are in control of a group of survivors who have taken shelter in an abandoned house. You'll have to make sure the basic needs of each character are met to ensure their survival. Warmth, hunger, sleep, and medicine if they get sick or injured.
So it's kind of like The Sims, really, only way more depressing.
Yeah.
Naturally, though, supplies are scarce in times of war. And while you spend your first few days searching the house for whatever you can find, it's not long before you'll need to venture out. As each day ends, the time comes to prepare for the night ahead.
To start with, you generally have 3 or 4 civilians to look after, and you'll need to decide who gets to sleep, who will stand guard, and who will go out and scavenge. Of course, you can have everyone just stay home and sleep, but with each person getting hungrier by the day, that's rarely a luxury you can afford.
Yeah, plus raids from passing thugs are an almost nightly occurrence. So it's wise to put at least one person on guard, although without a weapon to defend themselves, things will still get stolen and your survivors will get injured in the process.
It's horribly bleak, isn't it?
It really is. The art direction and animations beautifully set the mood as well. It's sophisticated and detailed, and as each survivor becomes more tired, weak, and hungry, you'll see it in the way they move and carry themselves.
Each scavenge mission is nerve-wracking and perilous. Initially, there are only a few locations for you to explore, but more open up as the days roll on. And many of the locations you scout are inhabited by others trying to survive themselves. Sometimes you can negotiate with them or trade, but more often than not, if they catch you in their space, they'll be instantly hostile and attack you.
Oh man, when I lost my first survivor on a scavenge mission, I felt horribly responsible. I just took too many risks. You have such limited time to find materials, and each day that passes, everyone gets hungrier and colder.
Yes, and the importance of getting as many materials as possible to try and craft weapons, better tools, things like beds to ensure your people are better rested. It really is paramount. It becomes an almost impossible balancing act as you try to prioritize which items are the most important to make with the limited materials and time you have available.
Sometimes people will come to your door asking to trade or even asking for your help. Helping out other survivors is not only a kind thing to do, but it can reward you with some supplies as well. But it also means one less person to stand guard or scavenge during the night.
It's always a trade-off, isn't it?
Yeah, and if hunger, sickness, injury, and the constant threat of invasion isn't enough, the sheer hopelessness of this awful situation could be that final straw that causes your survivors to simply give up and lose hope. There's a wonderful tenderness to the action of trying to lift their spirits, to support them. But as the days pass and things still don't get better, sometimes it's just not enough.
It's moments like this that really set this game apart from other games within this wartime environment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So often games simply explore war in a very two-dimensional way, but here it's very obvious that this is influenced by the stories and experiences of real people. And the weight of that carries through.
Yeah, and isn't it incredible that we're starting to see this side of games that are based on themes of war? Similarly with Valiant Hearts earlier this year, which was another really creative, emotional perspective on the horrible nature of war, but still folded into that video game format.
Yeah, it adds depth and maturity, doesn't it? I also find that because you live through so many failures, it really adds to that sense of wartime hopelessness. But it works well to develop your approach to long-term survival.
This is definitely one of those games where you'll need to start over a few times and try new strategies to set yourself up better with each new attempt.
Just knowing which locations to visit first, how much to risk, what you should arm yourself with. It often takes multiple failures to learn, but no two playthroughs are identical either. So don't expect the same trader or civilian to turn up at your door each time. You have to be ready for anything.
I just found bag space to be the biggest issue for me. You need every available slot to grab as much gear as possible for your people. But then you should probably also carry a weapon too. Sometimes a shovel or items to barter with in case you encounter someone who can give you medicine or precious food. Wasting a night due to poor bag management decisions can have huge repercussions.
One thing I didn't like was that the houses all have listed the level of danger and what provisions they have available.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit odd as well. It should really be only something you discover once you've at least visited that location once.
Another interesting thing to mention is that some areas of the city aren't so poorly affected by the war. So there's a moral issue at play with whether or not you choose to steal from defenseless people just living in their homes, or risk taking from thugs who can and will kill you on sight.
At one point I saw an army officer threatening to molest some girl. I didn't have a weapon, but I thought maybe I could just sneak in and get a jump on him and help her out.
Yeah, you really can't assume that anyone will take your side or be friendly. Each decision you make carries with it risk. It's thrilling and challenging and upsetting all at once.
What are you giving it?
Well, this was a really unique and interesting experience. I love the risk-reward factor and the way you are constantly managing the needs of all your survivors. But the way they created this environment really had me invested a lot more than I usually am with these kinds of survival games. And as a result, the stakes seem higher. I'm giving this 9 out of 10.
This generated such a sense of anxiety in me, just trying to make everything work. But the other thing it did was create that horrible sinking feeling when you know it's all over. There's no coming back from your mistakes. You either start again or wait for death or starvation to come. It's bleak, but then so is war. I'm giving it 9 as well.